Hello, it's Vicki from My Creative Corner 3. It's a podcast about quilting, crafting, creativity, and life in my northern town. So I have an audio podcast that went up this week, and I'm talking a lot about pineapples, knitting, and an old cookbook. So the knitting, I have done Grandma's favorite dishcloth. That is a free pattern, and I put a link to that free pattern on the website, mycreativeccorner3.wordpress.com. And I have made two, and I'm working on my third. Now, I'm using up the We Are Knitters crochet cotton. It is a cotton yarn, and oh my gosh, We Are Knitters has some fantastic yarn. I did a free cushion cover tutorial, and I had navy blue, and I have this cream. And I want to say, when I first did the pattern, I realized I made a mistake because you knit it on the diagonal and you increase and then you decrease. I made a mistake the first time around. I ripped it back, realized after I consulted with a friend who is a knitter that I didn't read the pattern right. So lesson learned. I need to print off patterns and not read them on an electronic device because I make mistakes. Now the other pattern I finished, and it is available at Ravelry or on Instagram. You can find Boho Heart Knits. She did a tarot cloth. Now it is called the Claire Tarot Cloth, but it is a fabulous little table topper. I made it big enough to go on my Singer treadle sewing machine that was my great-grandmother's. Isn't that a fantastic border? I used sock yarn on the outside that has these beautiful peaches, pinks, blues, and then the center is this mitered. You've knit from the center out. It is fantastic. Now mine is full of a few mistakes because I'm not an advanced knitter. I found this to be the most zen thing to knit once I had finished it up, and I'm going to show you the quarter. Oh my goodness. Now this side might have, look at that. It's just, I just love this, how it miters. And you could make keep making it bigger. You could make a shawl, a square one, but it would be beautiful. So that's been the knitting. What's the pineapples? Well, I am down to 3 of the large-sized paper-pieced pineapples with my fussy cut Tula Pink and the Tula Pink Zuma solid colors. Now, it is foundation paper-pieced with a wonderful pre-printed paper from Fat Quarter Shop. It's called the Pineapple Pad. And you can tell this has got everything you need to know. Plus, Fat Quarter Shop did a tutorial on it. And without the tutorial, I would have been lost. But it's phenomenal, and I would really encourage you to watch it if you are struggling with paper piecing, wanting to learn how to paper piece, or how to do a large size block that I'm used to just holding tiny bits. But these are larger pieces. Turned out great. Now, a little sneaky peek of some of my free motion quilting, and I'm making sure that I'm not giving too much away, but look at that border. Yeah, getting ready for Christmas with a little bit of a swirl and holly. Just practice doodling. That's how I learned how to figure out the shape, how to travel along a border, and fill in the space. Now let me show you the cookbook I'm talking about. So one of the groups I belong to is Quilt Fiction, and we are talking about home and garden this week and any old cookbooks. And I use the Better Home and Garden Betty Crocker cookbook, red and white checked, from the 80s, and I also have one from the 60s. And I use a 4-H community fundraiser cookbook. And the question was, do you have any other community fundraiser type cookbooks? And I thought, fundraisers? Wait, my daughter was telling me about fundraisers for the grandkids. And I thought, that must be a new modern problem. No, it's not. 1948. is when the Lovejoy Community Club in a very small town in rural Michigan, where my mother grew up, went to a one-room schoolhouse. My grandmother was the head of the Mothers Club, they called it, well before PTAs. They decided to do a fundraiser by each writing out their own recipe. Now look, the spiral is the kind, the spiral bind, this is broken here, but you can see it's the old kind where it comes apart, and some of the binding has come apart. There's still plastic pieces. I'm going to have to try to be very careful. Inside, my grandmother had women contribute their recipes, and they hand wrote them. Now you're going to find some of the ads and things that you would expect. Oh my gosh, Bill's Food Center and the Shiawassee County State Bank. You know, those are what you'd expect, but not the recipes. Look at that. They hand wrote them out. I think they all got together after they had several recipes, and they had a little handwriting party. And you can tell that all of the recipes are written out in different types of font. Different people wrote them. And they even contributed their pictures. There's my grandmother. What's so quaint about it is that they put their addresses underneath. I just thought that was amazing. They would put their address where they were from. Maybe you could send them a little note if there was a question on the recipe. They did have a few sections with printed pages. Oh, so 1948. I thought fundraising has been around since the beginning of time. And this little cookbook is a treasure that I'm going to try to preserve it by taking pictures. There's even pictures of the kids, and it's a one-room schoolhouse. And they were all in one school until they got to middle school age, and then they sent them to town to go to middle school. I thought, that's cruel. That's cruel. What a time. You'd be in this little cloistered neighborhood with your friends on the farm schoolhouse, and your cousins, your family, your neighbors, and then you get shipped to town with people you don't even know, and the terrible middle school age. That was not a fun time in my life. I don't know, maybe it was yours. I was not a fan of it. So anyway, I thought this is what is on the podcast. These topics, you can see the things that I talked about. And if you want to hear the entire podcast, it is on Podbean, or you can go to www.mycreativecorner3, as in the number 3, wordpress.com, and you can find the blog post that says pineapples, yarn, and old cookbooks. And you'll hear the long version of all the stories of the things that I talked about. And everyone have a most happy Halloween. This is my favorite little crocheted free pattern on the internet. Check it out. Anyway, everyone have a most fantastic week. Be creative and quilt on, everyone.